my brains like a semi, can I pocket here? Everything I'm sitting always starts to flare. Lautaro Martinez with my soccer kick.
Ciao, buongiorno a tutti ragazzi. Long time no speak, long time no converse, no inter-worldwide podcast for a while, but we are back again tonight in high spirits, and I just want to welcome my two awesome guests. First of all, Alessandro, come stai, fratello? How have you been?
I'm being a little bit sick, and I guess that's one of the reasons why we didn't record, but there are way better reasons, and now I want you to introduce our new guest, our guest with a little bit of a new addendum.
Yeah, absolutely. Our second guest is Bruno, the notorious Bruno, the king of Gregory Hills. But more importantly, Bruno, brother, a huge congratulazione, auguri, mabruk, brother, on the birth of your new son. We've got a new interesta in the Interworldwide family.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. The first thing he wore as soon as he came out was his little Inter shirt. And let me tell you now, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have watched the last couple of games because he wakes me up just on time.
He's a true interesta at heart, man. He just knows to go early. And what a season! What a season to be born! What a season to become an interesta. We'll forever remember it, Bruno, when we get old, as the year of Conte and the year of Bruno's baby. 100%, bro. So on this particular episode, we've got a lot to get through since we didn't have a podcast for a long time. But we are going to start differently. We're going to work a little bit backwards so that I remember not to forget anything. So we'll start with the most recent result, which was the 2-1 win over Bologna. A tough away trip, just like there are many tough away trips in the Italian league. And we have seen Inter buckle and struggle taking on teams like Bologna away, like Cagliari away, like Sampdoria away. But Conte is bucking the trend. And even with 76 minutes on the clock and being down 1-0, it didn't exactly rock the boat. 2 goals for Big Rom, Red Rom, no longer red for Manchester United, but red because he's red hot. 9 goals in 11 Serie A starts. I'm going to start with you, Bruno, because at the start of the season, you were very, very confident in Lukaku's ability, even when I wasn't. Bruno, how are you feeling about Lukaku, and how did you feel about Bologna, man? Whatever you caught of it.
Well, look, Lukaku, what can you say? You can't really ask for more in a $70 million purchase. And, 9 goals in, 11 games now? He's just managed to eat the hearts of most of the fans, finally accepting him, forgetting that, who's that guy we had before? Icardi, that's it. Don't ever want to mention his name, but following him, everyone was very doubtful, but he stepped up. He's a classic goal poacher. When we do go back an extra game, we'll talk about how he's amazing out of the box goal, but he's just there, and it just feels like pressure does not impact Lukaku at all. And taking a 92nd minute penalty to win the game away from home, he just did not flinch. And overall, the result wasn't as convincing as what could be, but like you said, we've travelled to Bologna. Mihalovic is back there. We've got this team that, we've still got injuries. Sensi hasn't come back. We've had a couple of younger players starting. And look, Lazzaro played very well in my eyes as well. I feel if Lukaku didn't get those 2 goals, Lazzaro would have, in my eyes, would have gotten man of the match. But overall, I'm very happy. And I actually would love to hear Alessandro's opinion on our game against Bologna, because at the end of the day, it wasn't convincing, but 3 points is 3 points. We might have done a little bit of a Juventino tactic with the 92nd minute penalty, but what do you think, Ale?
I mean, nothing really more to say. It wasn't a convincing performance, even though Bologna tried to score like twice, maybe. So I don't think we steal anything from that game, but the way we won wasn't convincing, and I'm sure it's also due to the number of games we're playing in such a limited um, time, and we don't have the squad that Juventus had, and that's one of the reasons why I can't wait that the transfer window's open, just because we need more people, we need more players. Um, but all in all, I mean, even if we win in this way, uh, if we look at the situation in Serie A right now, I take it. I don't care. You know, a penalty in 92 minutes, it's fine. I see teams winning in a way worse way than us. And they are on top of us. So I don't care at this point.
Yeah,
What do
I'd
you
have to
think,
agree.
Anthony?
I'd have to agree completely with you, man. You said it really well when you said, I don't care at this point. Like, how would you care at this point? Because at the moment, we're not playing fantastic football, but we're doing more than enough to get ourselves over the line. You know, we've got 28 competition points at this stage of the season, and you don't get that just by getting lucky or fluky. You get that with a consistent desire, hard work in training, grinter, and a certain mental application on the pitch. And that's what we are getting week in, week out with this side. Even against Parma when we drew 2-2, and we'll go back to that in a second. And Antonio Conte, the very first thing he said in his press conference was, I cannot fault the effort on behalf of my players, and for that I'm very proud of them. So this is a complete 180 turn on the Inter side and their mental fortitude that we saw under Spalletti. And I have to admit, I didn't think we were going to come back at 1-0 to Bologna, but the fact that we did and proved me wrong and many other fans wrong, that's exactly the type of player and the type of, match-winning situations that we want to be. And I just want to echo what Alessandro said before about teams winning uglier than us. It's not just in Italy. You know, as Inter fans, I've said it before, we're very spoiled. We get a taste of something and we think we need the whole cake. So, we get an inch and we think we can take a kilometer, but you got to remember, Real Madrid drew 0-0 at home this weekend. Barcelona lost 3-1. Bayern got clapped up 5-1 and had their boss sacked. There are teams in the world that are on a higher pedestal than us that are having the same struggles in a footballing context that all clubs have. So at the moment, I'm really, really impressed with the trajectory of Inter and how they are going. Let's back it up another fixture to Brescia. Brescia was another tough away game. A tough team with some good players, and they set themselves up well. However, I thought Inter were actually quite good away from home in that game. It wasn't a fantastic performance, but as I said, there's no such thing as an easy away trip in Italy. Not anymore, in my opinion, anyway. I'll go over to Bruno on that in a second. But to see us grab that goal again, even against the run of play at the start of that Brescia game, and then Lukaku picks the ball up on his favored right-hand side to cut in on the left. That was absolutely phenomenal. That was a fantastic goal. Yes, we had to sit there a little nervously at the back end, but hey, we've been there before in much worse situations. Bruno, swinging it over to you for Brescia and that Lukaku goal. And yeah, go for it, bruv.
Look, overall, we had 3 games. We had Parma, we had Brescia, and we had Bologna. Now, something that those 3 teams don't have, that Inter does have, is Champions League football. Now, Champions League football, Europa League football worked in favour of Inter in those 3 fixtures. Why? Because we're used to playing so many games, one after another. Whereas Parma, they belted a team 5-0, they drew 2-2, and then their following 2 results weren't as convincing. The same goes for Brescia and Bologna, right? They don't know how to keep up with such chaotic schedules. And that's why coming out of those 3 games undefeated was a major plus. Now, unfortunately, we could have been top of the table, but we'll talk about that shortly. Now, the Brescia game, it was much more convincing, and it was a well thought out plan by Conte, and he managed to get the best out of the team, and they just pushed and pushed and pushed. Now, I was a bit worried towards the end of the game. Balotelli was on fire. Now, I know you're very skeptical of Balotelli, Anthony, but he did have a couple of very good chances, and Handanovic has been our saviour on countless times this season, and I'm forever grateful for that. But I just feel 3 points, like Ale said about the Bologna game, and same goes for this game. 3 points is 3 points. Now, you got to think, we're 11 games into the season. We've lost one game. That's all we've lost. Now, we cannot complain. And I just feel that it's a great turn, and you summed it up very well, Anthony. It was a 180 from last season. These were results we would not get. And that pressure Bologna applied would have led to a goal last season. But Conte has drilled it into the team's heads that every team Inter plays, it should be treated like we're playing Juventus. We need to keep getting that 3 points. We're not taking the foot off the pedal. Like Spalletti, he's unlike Spalletti, where he would put a very, we didn't have a great squad to begin with last season, but he'd put a weaker squad than what he could against the lower teams, hoping to get the points. But 9 times out of 10, we weren't getting all 3 points. We'll be lucky to be getting 1 point. It's just it was a great game to watch. It was very exciting, and I remember messaging you straight after the game, and your first point to me, Anthony, was how good was it to see Lukaku score a goal from outside of the box. Now, I don't care how they end up in the back of the net, but it was a spectacular goal that day. And look, something I forgot to mention earlier is just the unity in our team is ridiculous. You see Lukaku score a goal, he's hugging Martinez, he's hugging Conte. The team get behind each other. You haven't seen the unity in this team since 2010. And it was just beautiful. Ale, what did you think about that Lukaku goal? And do you expect to see more of a striking Lukaku from outside of the box rather than his general tap-ins he normally goes for?
Well, I certainly expect something like that. The last game, I keep seeing Lukaku moving more on the side of the pitch, and that's something that did in that specific occasion for that goal. So if he's able to keep the goal, turn and run, that's something that can give a good opportunity to shoot. At the beginning of the season I think it wasn't in a good form to do that. So it was playing closer to the 11 meters, and so it can keep ball and pass to the midfield. But now I think is starting to be able to do that movement and run from a little bit farther back. But the other thing I start noticing, I think everybody noticed that, but the rotation of players that we have every game, it's impressive, and that was something that Spalletti wasn't able to do. At the end of the day, we have a core that is Handanovic, Skriniar, then we have Brozovic, Barella, and Lautaro and Lukaku. But if you look at that, the rest of the team, Conte is able to play Bastoni, is able to play Lazzaro, is able to play Gagliardini, Candreva, and pretty much all the players that we have. Godin so far is not the best player that we've seen, but hopefully he's getting there. But overall, aside Borja Valero, everybody was able to play and to give something to this team. Even Esposito was great for the few minutes he played. So that, as you were saying, that gives the idea of the group that he is creating, and that's the reason why he didn't want certain elements from the last seasons, certain dramas and prima donna. On top of that, I think we still lack something to cancel the gap with the top team. But as Anthony was saying, all the top team in Europe are in a little bit of trouble. So being in this situation right now, it's pretty impressive. And if you look at Juventus, is on top of us with like 1 point. But if you look at how he got those points, you start to doubt a little bit of the how can I say, the rules and how they've been applied in Serie A. So overall, I'm pretty happy because at least the points that we have, they're honest and fair. So being Interista, that's all I want. I don't want to win something just because it's the victory is the most important thing. It's how you win, in fairness and honesty. What do you think, Anthony?
Well said, man. Yeah, well said. Couldn't agree more. In terms of, the squad rotation, I think you make a great point about Spalletti not being able to utilize all the ingredients in his kitchen, whereas Conte is a little bit of a master chef in that sense. Give him a bunch of ingredients and he'll create the best possible meal he can out of that. And I think he's doing that at the moment because we have so many players on that team where on paper you'd look at them and go, oh dear, is Bastoni good enough to replace a Godin or a De Vrij or a Skriniar? Is Biraghi good enough to go on the left for Asamoah, which, let's face it, he hasn't been brilliant, but he's never really been bad. He's been quite a consistent, safe option. Candreva, whose career looked absolutely dead and buried, is now one of the first names on the team sheet. And we're ruining an injury to Danilo D'Ambrosio because he was in such good form under Conte as well. Lukaku and Lautaro are thriving. Esposito goes down against Dortmund and wins us a crucial penalty. The result of the penalty is irrelevant to the fact that he did all the hard work to get it in the first place. So I think you make a great point about our squad and who's been utilized in it. We need to go back another couple of fixtures. Wow, it really has been a long time for this podcast. But to finish it off, we've got Parma and conveniently the Dortmund victory in the Champions League. And then, of course, we need to preview the next match against Dortmund, which is actually very, very soon. Now, Parma, Bruno, we were frustrated. We were pretty frustrated at 2-2. But I got to say, in terms of getting over the result and coming off it, it was probably the quickest result that we ever got over, us two. So, in context, the 2-2 draw against Parma was not a horrible result. It stung more because Juventus drew to Lecce in the afternoon, and we kind of shit our pants a little bit and didn't go on to beat Parma. We didn't play very well against Parma. We let them take control of that game through errors. A fatigued Brozovic lets Karamo in at the back. Gervinho is a quality player. So Parma, they're not a bad side. But as Alessandro said before, or Bruno said, I'm sorry, they're not used to that sort of fixture congestion. So after they got a good result against us, they went and got done at home to Hellas Verona. So I guess we're left to rue that missed opportunity. But what I'm more focused on at the moment, Bruno, is not necessarily the gap between us and Juventus. I'm taking a look at the table, mate, and I'm very happy with the gap between us and third, us and fourth. Let's just keep in mind our goals for the last two seasons was to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. And we had to wait until the back end of extra time in both of those seasons under Spalletti. And right now we are putting daylight between some of our competitors. So, Bruno, first of all, talk a little bit about your reaction to the 2-2 draw against Parma, your level of disappointment at maybe not getting that top spot temporarily, but more importantly, how you're looking at the rest of the table at the moment, man.
Look, the 2-2 result to Parma was disappointing in the sense that we could have been in first place. But in saying that, last season we lost our fixture against Parma first time round, and we've gone from a loss to a draw. So you've got to take the positive. Now, Conte has a team which they're not mature enough as of yet. Now, I don't say mature enough as in they're not great players, but the conception of them being on top of the table would have played on their minds very so much. And look, I'm going to be straight up. I didn't watch the Parma game. My wife was in the process of giving birth to my child. So I did check a couple of times to check the score in between contractions and screams, but I was forced to put my phone down. So I'm not going to argue with a woman in the labour room. But in saying that, it was a very it was a good result. I'm pleased with the 2-2 result. Now, last season, when Inter would drop points, the rest of the league would drop points. And ultimately, that's what gave us our Champions League position, where, you know, first and second were miles ahead of us, and third and fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth were just right on our tails that whole time. And it just feels this season, when the rest of the league are dropping points, Inter's getting the points and just bridging, creating a bigger gap in between what was. Now, you look at the game, the table before the Parma game, Atalanta was sitting and Napoli was sitting on our tails. I think Atalanta was 2 or 3 points behind. And since then, they've actually dropped a fair bit. And that came to a loss to draw to Napoli, I think it was, where they, which was quite controversial. And
yeah, 2-2.
I'm not going to, yeah, it was a 2-2 draw to Napoli, which in my eyes was quite controversial. It could have went either way. And then they lost to Cagliari, who is now sitting on equal points. There's 3 teams: Lazio, Atalanta, Cagliari, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now, Roma's come out of nowhere as well. And that's just surprising. But it's just that beautiful gap between Inter and Roma, that 6-point buffer where we've actually got some playroom. Now, if we're going to be, I'm quietly optimistic. I don't think we'll be waiting till match day 36 to know if we're in Champions League or not. But ultimately, I think Conte's done amazing stuff with the team so far, regardless of whether we win this Scudetto or not. I don't think anyone was going to turn around and say when Conte came to Inter, the Scudetto is ours, especially with the drama in the team we had when he first signed that contract. He's done amazing with us. But ultimately, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later on in the podcast, VAR and refereeing, but ultimately, Inter's not letting any of those decisions get to them, and they're moving forward. And I did see a press conference where Conte was asked about one of the Juventus results, and I think it was the Lit wasn't touch handballed it, which he seems to be doing every game. But why wasn't it given a penalty? And Conte's response was just sublime. He turned around and said, I don't give a crap. My job's to manage Inter. Now, we do the best we can. It doesn't matter what Juventus do. It doesn't matter what Torino do. It's as long as my team's performing, that's all I'm worried about. And that's what you want to see in a manager. Whereas Spalletti was looking for excuses. And I don't like that. But Alessandro, I think you'll be able to give a better in-depth analysis of the Parma game because you probably watched the full 90 minutes, and I'll hand it over to you. But yeah, I feel that our position on the table at the moment and the gap between second and third is just perfect. Over to you, Ale.
Yeah, first of all, I have to say I love the fact that you were checking the results why your wife was having a contraction, and you were like, kind of like, okay, sorry, I had to put down the phone. That image is amazing. Anyway, I did watch the game. I already have a 2 years old daughter, so no contraction here. But I was kind of in pain when I saw the mistakes that Godin was making that game. And as I mentioned a little bit before, I don't know what's happening to Godin, but I hope he can fix it, because he did a similar mistake against Brescia, and Balotelli almost scored. So against Parma, I think was the first goal when Karamot took the ball and then in a counter attack passed it to Gervinho for the goal. I think was the first one. But other than that, that game was like I feel like we had everything to win the game, and for two stupid mistakes we draw. And so as you said, it was like easy for us to recover, also because we have a really tight schedule, so you don't have even time to think about it. You're just on to the next game. And honestly, I didn't even realize that in 48 hours we're playing again, and that's pretty amazing, and I can't wait for the next game. But the game versus Parma was I feel like we dropped some point, but those points we make it against Bologna or against Cagliari, because those are tough points for us and for every other team in Serie A. When we won against Cagliari, everybody was like, oh, okay, it's Cagliari, who cares? But now look at what they are doing at home. It's really hard to win there. So even if we drop 2 points against Parma, we got against Cagliari, and we are still right there on top. So all in all, it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, 100% would agree. You know, at the end of the day, I said this before, I'll say it again. There were way too many games in the last few years that we should have picked up 3 points, and we didn't. And fans would know before we went into the fixture, here we go. Here's a tough away trip against the team coming 12th, the team coming 14th, the team coming 18th, the team on the bottom, that we're just not going to get these 3 points. But what we're doing at the moment, like Bruno said, Conte goes into every game like it's war, like it's battle. And we're doing everything we can to get those results. And that's exactly what you need to do when the fixture congestion list piles up. If you're going to take 3 steps back and look at it from a back perspective and see the big whiteboard and all the fixtures ahead of you, it would make even the most professional, experienced managers and players rack their brains and go, what am I supposed to do here? How am I supposed to take on these 2 sides in 3 days and then go off to Dortmund in Germany? So at the end of the day, the team is performing very, very well with the squad it has and with the fixtures that are in front of us. We won't dwell too much on the Dortmund result, because by my calculations, about 40 hours, 36 hours, we've got another fixture against them. It's the return leg in Germany. It's going to be super duper tough. Borussia Dortmund have one of the most hostile, vocal crowds in European football. Not to say that they're a barbaric bunch by any sort, and German football fans are generally one of the more friendly, but it's going to be really tough. Last time we hosted them in Milan, and they rocked up with a host of injuries, including Paco Alcacer, Marco Reus, and Mario Götze. They lacked a fair bit of creativity, and the score line suggests that 2-0, no goals. Just quickly, Bruno, your thoughts on getting 3 points at Dortmund? Talk to me a little bit about Esposito making his Champions League debut, but most importantly, Bruno, what's going to happen in 36 hours' time, man?
Look, I think it's going to be a very interesting fixture. Now, Dortmund came to the San Siro. We got a 2-0 result against them. We beat them. And And I feel that 2-0 result there will be very critical in the outcome of this group. Now, Inter, even if we lose to Dortmund, if we can put a goal in the back of the net, it gives us the upper hand. So if we finish equal points with Dortmund at the end of the day, we're going to be on top of them. And the fact that we kept them scoreless against at the San Siro was fantastic. Traveling there, they have the most intimidating fans in all of Europe. And I think it was Mourinho said it. One of the managers said it. You go to Manchester, watch a game there. Most of the people at the game are tourists. You go to Liverpool, same thing. Real Madrid, Barcelona, same thing. You go to Germany, there is no room for tourists to buy tickets. It's the homegrown fans who are actually going to be putting their best foot forward that whole time. Now, in saying that, I've just got some information here, and it is Marco Reus has obtained a foot injury on the 2nd of November, and his return is actually unknown. Schmelzer is currently still out. Götze is back into the squad, as well as Paco Alcacer. Now, we were very favourable when they came to Milan with a depleted squad, but it's the Champions League. It's football. You have injuries. You have injuries left, right, and centre. We were missing Sanchez. We were missing Sensi. Right? That's the life we live in. I feel if Sensi can make his return to this in this match, which isn't a bad thing, because he has been, from what I can see, removed off the injury list now. I feel he will sway the game, and ultimately we got to forget about the 2-0 win, and we got to go there and fight like this is war again. Because if we can get the 3 points in Germany, we will catapult ourselves up that table. We have a Barcelona match followed by a Slavia Praha match. Or no, the other way around, sorry. But ultimately, we're in a very good position. And this result coming up is imperative to our Champions League campaign, but it's not detrimental if we do lose it. As long as we can get the ball into the back of the net. Now, I can't see Esposito starting just because you're going to chuck a youngster in such an intimidating environment. You don't want, him to get the shakes. I can see him. I can see Conte starting with the same two up front: Martinez, Lukaku. Especially Lukaku coming off a brace. Martinez, he's been on fire so far this season. And when we do later on in the pod talk about our transfer talk, we'll discuss the rumours revolving around him. But we've got them two up front. Barella, he's been getting better and better every single game he plays. So I can't see him not playing a big part there. Candreva was rested. I can see him coming on and starting well. It's just the back line, and Ale touched on it earlier. Godin, do you go with him? Like, he's been a bit hot and cold, but he's used to this type of pressure. He's used to the Champions League pressure that he sustained whilst he was at Atletico. So anything's really possible. I am optimistic. I can see us coming away with 1 point. I can see us getting a scoreless or a 1-1 draw. Marco Reus is a massive factor in this squad. He has been main part of their success over the last, over this season so far. And the fact that he will be missing in this game, well, what the reports are saying, most will work in our favour. But let's hope Sensi can get back onto that pitch and we walk away with the 3 points. Ale, I know you're more technical in your explanations, but do you think Sensi will be coming back for this game?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably not, or probably just the second half. After this game, we are playing home versus Verona, and in theory, it's a much easier game for us. So it really depends what Conte and the whole team wants to do. What are their goals? So it's a kind of risky after an injury to come back and play such an intense game, and I don't know exactly what's the status of Sensi right now, the injury, if he's completely recovered, if he's totally fine, or if he's slowly coming back. So it could be risky, and I don't know if they're willing to go that far. So I really can't say what will happen. And but all in all, as you were saying, as we can score at least once, and if we can get 1 point out of it, that should be a success. Personally, I'm leaving this Champions League year, as just a gift for us. I don't think we are anywhere close to win this competition. So whatever we get, we got also the hardest group in this Champions League. So whatever we get out of this is fine. I'm more focused on Serie A than on Champions League. So I don't know what you think, Anthony. Anthony?
Well, yeah, sorry, connection was a bit off. It's a tough one. Had you asked me this question before we took on Dortmund in Italy, I would have agreed 100%. I would have been all in 100%. Don't even worry about the Serie A because, we dropped the points against Slavia to start off the disappointing campaign. We go a goal up against Barcelona only to get absolutely ruined in the last 15 minutes. And I guess as an Inter fan, you'd be forgiven for almost throwing in the towel then and there. But as we saw last season under Spalletti, the shoe was on the other foot. We had 6 points from 6 in the first 2 games, and then out of nowhere, we dropped off and didn't get another win. Maybe we can do it differently this time. We go into this fixture knowing that a win would put us in the box seat. A draw would still give us a good chance. A loss would almost put us out. So it is an all or nothing game, the way that you look at it. I mean, I don't think any team really wants to come away with a point, to be honest. I know a point does give both teams still the chance to go through, but I don't see why any of the two sides or any of the players will want to get onto that pitch and be satisfied with a point. That being said, I think that we will see a little bit of rotation. I think getting the 3 points against Bologna without using Sensi was the biggest win. The biggest win was not using Sensi in that game, because imagine how fresh he's probably feeling at the moment. If he was ready to come off the bench against Bologna, he might just be itching to start that game against Dortmund. For me, I think he starts. I think we see him from minute 1, and I actually think we see him play almost the whole game. I could be completely wrong, and there might be an announcement from an outlet in the next 24 hours that he's injured and he doesn't even make the bench. But that's just my opinion. In terms of the results, I have so much faith in so many of our players stepping it up and having a really good game that I actually think we can get a result away from home. I think Nicola Barella has been an amazing player, especially since Sensi has been injured. He has barely put a foot wrong for me. I think Brozovic will be a little bit better against Dortmund, but at the same time, he will be shut down quite well. And I think this is a game that Lautaro will show his magic on the European stage again. And, unfortunately, keep those bids coming in from clubs from all around the world. But, he looks very happy here, and that's all I want to focus on at the moment. I don't want to talk about the speculation. You both don't get away that easily. You tried to slip away from this topic without giving a result or a prediction. I'm going for 1-0. I think that we get a lonely goal in this match, and Dortmund struggle to break down one of Europe's best defenses, even in front of one of Europe's best home crowd. Bruno, quick prediction, please, before we move on.
I'm saying a 1-1 draw.
What a pussy. Jokes. Alessandro, your prediction, man?
So you said 1-0. He said 1-1. I'm going 2-1 for Dortmund.
Damn. Oh well, at least one of us on the brand will be right, and we can claim that one as Interworldwide getting the prediction correct. We'll move on to the next Serie A fixture this weekend, only because I'm conscious of the fact that we won't squeeze in another podcast before domestic football, and then we'll move on to some of the off the pitch stuff before we finish off. We take on Hellas Verona on the weekend, a team who is poor on their best day, a team who is poor, pretty much poor when they play well. They were decent against Brescia today, but I think Brescia's struggling a lot more than people think, sitting in 18th. Not that side that was going to buck the relegation trend like we see some sides do well when they get promoted. Me personally, I think we need to go out against Verona and absolutely spank them on the weekend. It's hard to talk about this fixture now with Dortmund so close, but regardless of the Dortmund game, we need to act. And this season, one of the most impressive things for me has been how this team has acted in the face of adversity. You know, usually this team is the type of team where if one result goes bad, we go on a downward spiral for God knows how long, and then we have to dig ourselves out of a depression. But we've had a couple of setbacks this season only to come back even stronger from those setbacks. So in terms of taking on Hellas Verona at the weekend, a club that might find themselves in the negative limelight during the week, and that might even play into our hands due to some more ridiculous racist chants this morning projected towards Mario Balotelli. But yeah, that's the be-all and end-all for me. 3 easy points against Hellas Verona, 3-0, 4-0, big goals, big dominant performance. Bruno, just briefly, try and block out the Dortmund game for a second. How would you be approaching Verona this weekend? Are there any sort of players, any sort of tactics that you'd implement for what should be an easy game at the San Siro on the weekend?
Yeah, if I was Conte and, we didn't have Champions League, I'd want to go into this game with the best team possible and make a statement to the rest of the Serie A. Put 3, 4, 5 goals past Verona like we know we can. In saying that, Verona has been a team which is coming off 2 successive wins. They beat Parma after Parma drew with Inter. And yes, they did beat Brescia this morning. But in saying that, I don't think that Conte will be taking his foot off the pedal in this game. He is cynical when it comes to, undervaluing teams. And he's the last manager in the world that you would ever expect to turn around and say, oh, well, we can go into this match a bit easier because it's only Verona. But Verona's currently sitting in 9th in the Serie A, right? And we can't dismiss that. They're obviously getting some results together. Now, you did say that Verona is poor on their best of days. In saying that, every team seems to have their best game when they play Inter Milan. And it's just this season as well. You look at the lower teams, they're playing, when they play the top teams, they are putting 11 men in their own box defending. And we saw it against Lecce, against Juventus, and how easy it was for them to stop Juventus from getting all 3 points. Verona will do the same. Inter is a benchmark for a lot of teams this season. Getting a result from Inter is like getting the result from Juventus. It's just as good in their eyes. They've got a team who is doing so well, coming off only 1 loss so far this season in the Serie A. So I am not going to discredit Verona because you never know what they can be capable of on their day. But it's at the San Siro. We're returning home after 3 consecutive games, being the Brescia, Bologna and Dortmund game, all being away. So we will have a massive turnout for this fixture. And I just feel we should be able to come away with the 3 points, and it should be very comfortable. It wouldn't surprise me if, he chucks on Esposito very early in the second half. It wouldn't even surprise me if he goes with starting Bastoni in the back and potentially giving one of our defenders a nice, well-earned rest. In saying that, I think our biggest issue the team's got at the moment is the player who was so great for us last season in Brozovic. I just feel he's not keeping up to speed with the rest of the team, and he's letting us down more often than not. And I just feel he needs to really step up because transfer window's coming up, and I'm sure Conte will be having a couple of words with him. He's just letting him know, look, mate, you've got to get your performances up because if we find someone else, you're going to have to fight for your position. And out of the whole team, Brozovic's position is the only position which we really don't have a proper backup for. So he might be getting a bit too comfortable in that space of mind. But Ale, what do you think of Verona and more particularly Brozovic?
I think, first of all, I think Brozovic is really tired, and not having Sensi that took some break from him. You know, if we still have Sensi, it was possible for us to rotate a little bit more. And now it's like playing every single game 90 minutes over and over. So, and that's why we need some other player. And about Verona, of the newly promoted team, I think is the weakest one. But that doesn't mean it's an easy game. Like Anthony was saying, I don't think we're gonna win like 5-4-0. I think it's gonna be another like Brescia game. If we win like 2-0, 2-1, they're gonna probably play all in defense, parking the bus, and so we will be able to score. I think we are not as predictable as we were last year, but I don't think we're gonna destroy the team or anything like that. I don't think right now this squad, this Conte team is able to do that, but we'll see. I don't know. Anthony, what do you think?
Well, you know, obviously I'm just as cautious as the both of you, but something inside me just says that we're going to go to Verona and show why we've stepped it up 1 or 2 gears, because stepping it up 1 or 2 gears and beating these bottom teams is what top teams do. They go to these games, they score a goal, and they don't sit back. They look for the second, they get the second, then they might sit back a little bit. Conte likes to sit back at 2-0. He does like to sit back at 1-0 as well, but that all depends on the opposition. We played Sampdoria at a point in time where they were very, very broken and bruised. And I think Conte identified that and said, you know, we go for the kill here today. And that's what we did. That's what I'd be hoping to see against Verona. But boys, Verona honestly seems like a country mile away with all the fixtures that we've got, because, as I said, we've got Dortmund soon, and just like Conte and the Ragazzi, 1 game at a time, eh? Let's move a little bit to the off-field stuff. I'm very conscious of time, especially for Alessandro. Just quickly, before Alessandro does go and Bruno and I continue on a little bit more, January is going to come around before we know it, Alessandro. So I know we've spoken about this a couple of times before, but with our lacking depth and with the injury to Sensi, that almost did cause a little bit of a ruckus. Who we're going for in January? Who's your main target? Who do you think we need to invest in, mate?
I think it's pretty clear we need another player in the midfield and backup player and as a forward position. Sanchez was injured and it's gonna be out for a while, so we need another player there, and it's pretty clear to everybody that Borja Valero is not playing, and Vecina is not playing that much, so we need another player there. The other position that is still to see is the Lazaro position. If he's able to play as he played yesterday, maybe we're covered. But I don't think that's a priority. The priority is a good midfielder. And I mean, we know that Milinkovic-Savic is the dream, even though Luis Alberto is playing better, in my opinion, than Milinkovic-Savic. But, you know, those are players that I doubt we're able to get, at least in this transfers window. So, but I mean, I fully trust Conte and the whole team to figure it out what's the best player available with the budget that we have. So everybody knows what we need, and I'm just curious to see. I don't want to throw there some weird names because at the moment I don't have anything, you know, even
Ibrahimovic.
remotely sure. That would be the dream, at least for me.
Alessandro, thank you so much for coming on again, brother. I know I'm conscious of your time zone, so yep, thanks again.
Of course. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Ciao, brother. Ciao. Grazie.
Ciao.
Bruninho, when is Sanchez coming back? First of all, when do you think? Do you think we get him back a little bit earlier than the media suggests? We know how Marotta and Conte like to work in silence and plan a few things without us knowing. So before you talk about Sanchez, talk a bit about your main target for January, because that's around about the same time Alexis Sanchez is rumored to be coming back, bro. Go for it.
Look, I think January, as Ale covered, we need a nice, stable midfielder. Now, you know, last season when we were linked to him, Luka Modric would have been the ideal personnel. But as we've seen with Inter this season, we don't need maturity in the squad. We've got the all-time greatest goal scorer for Belgium on our team. We've got Godin, who has been a rock for us and for Atletico. So I just feel we don't need that type of player. I would like to see a more experienced midfielder in there, but you got to think Marotta and Conte's hands are pretty tied in that regards, because a lot of the players we will be going for may potentially be cup tied, and you know, we can't even utilize them throughout the Champions League campaign. That's if we're still in it. Ideally, Vidal has expressed he is not happy with Barcelona at the moment, and I just feel he'd love to return to the Serie A, and I couldn't say no to him if he was to come to Inter. I did make a little joke earlier about Ibrahimovic, but Ibrahimovic would be a fantastic player, and he knows himself. His age is a big part, and yeah, he's playing in the MLS, but he is a player like a tiger who is always hungry for more. And I can see him, if he was to come, I can see him taking that back seat, starting these games, and or coming on in the second half in these games, and basically doing what Ibra does best. But you never know. There were some reports out of Spain this morning saying that he's going to AC Milan. So anything is possible on that front. It wouldn't surprise me if...
Just before you go on, I have to let you know, bro, if Ibrahimovic does sign for us, we both need to go and get a jersey, because my favorite Inter jersey I ever had was the gold trimming with Ibrahimovic on it. And believe it or not, bro, my dad got it super dirty while he was cleaning outside one day, and just he threw it out without even letting me know. I was gutted, cuz. I was absolutely gutted.
Oh, don't worry. I've had many. My Melito jersey had the same thing happen to it. Painting a house and...
yeah.
So
shocking.
Don't worry, I'm on that same front. But back to the transfer, it wouldn't surprise me if we go in for another defender. I can see Conte moving away from the three at the back formation, moving forward and alternating, because he's that type of manager that likes to be unpredictable. And how unpredictable would it be for Conte to start four at the back and throw everyone off? it would not surprise me. Alexis Sanchez, I can see him making his return in the Coppa Italia fixture in late January. Because generally it's against a Serie B or Serie C team. And I can see him coming back there and then and probably being one of the best players on the pitch. He was very promising when he did play his one game for us. So anything is possible on that front. Anthony, I know you're a Manchester United fan. My condolences to you on that front. But seeing Romelu come to Inter and perform in the way he is, seeing Sanchez, even although he got a red card in his first game, but you can't really discredit what he's done so far in his couple of appearances for Inter. Is there anyone from the Red Devils you wouldn't mind taking and bringing across to Inter?
Right now, bro, probably not, to be honest, looking at the current mental state of the club. And just going on that, that's probably the biggest plus for Alexis Sanchez, is not necessarily his performance on the pitch, but his attitude in training leading up to his performances to us was getting a lot better. I don't know if many of our listeners know, I know Bruno knows, but Sanchez actually rocked up back at Appiano to train recently. It's a lot earlier than he was expected to be back at the training ground. Now, that's not to say he's going to come back quicker from injury, but he's there, Bruno. He's training. He looks like he wants to be there, and he looks like he's ready to commit to his footballing career again. I'm just a little bit worried that we've got him at the worst possible time at the back end of this injury. I don't know whether he can mentally overcome this, but it's really good to see him pushing hard and trying hard. And, a manager like Conte will do that to you. I think it's a big reflection on Alexis Sanchez when he decided to jump ship from Manchester United and take a pay cut as well. He's been dubbed a mercenary in the past, a thief by Arsenal fans, by Manchester United fans as well. And, England is an ugly place to play football, not just because of the weather. Honestly, the fans are always on your back, not to say that they're not on your back anywhere else, but you're in much more of a media spotlight as well. So I think that's another big reason why two of those players like Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez really didn't mind swapping England for Italy. And I think you'll find that's the case in a lot of players who want to leave England. Going back to your original question, would I take anyone from the current Manchester United team? Anthony Martial is a very talented player, has the mental capacity of a 19-year-old. He's not even much older than 19, but he doesn't show anything for me. In terms of the blue half of Manchester, though, which I know you're a fan of, yeah, you want to do me dirty, I'll do you dirty as well. I think that David Silva on a Bosman free transfer at the end of this season would be a Marotta masterstroke. For those of you who don't know, David Silva, Spanish all-round fantastic midfielder, deployed on the left and even on the right sometimes. He's such a good player. He's a world-class player, named in the Premier League team of the season last season again, even though he's starting to come of age. Bruno, what would you say to a David Silva free transfer at the end of the season, man?
David Silva free transfer would be a dream, especially in the Conte layout. He's the Spanish Pirlo in my eyes, and we saw that in the two European Championships they won, Euro 2008 and Euro 2012, as well as the World Cup in 2010. He's just a controlling player. He's got eyes that I don't think anyone else has in the game at the moment. It was like Pirlo, where he knew where each of his players were on the pitch at that same time, and he just does that so well. And he's flourished at Manchester City in the last couple of years. I would love to see him there, and he has expressed he doesn't want to renew at Manchester City. In saying that, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes back to Spain. But then again, Marotta, Conte, they're the masters of the free transfer. And I just think he would be the most ideal approach at the end of this coming year.
Dude, I mean, can you imagine Sensi, Barella, and Brozovic get some tired legs, and then you see David Silva warming up to come on? I mean, Jesus Christ, he'll cut through a brick coming off the bench. He might even have to start as well. Would be fantastic. We're very conscious of time at the moment. We're stretching on the hour mark. I apologize. I didn't even put the announcement out for any sort of questions or comments from our listeners. It's been that kind of week or fortnight. But something else did happen that didn't involve Inter, and we haven't spoken about on the podcast. Our Italian national team, Bruno and my Italian national team, if you're not Italian or you don't support the Azzurri, we apologize. But the Italian national team has qualified for Euro 2020. They're one of the first teams to qualify. They have qualified with a flawless record as well. And for me, I'm actually really happy. Now, before some of the listeners say, it's very, very bottom of the barrel kind of teams like Finland, like Liechtenstein, but, like Greece as well, who are absolutely horrendous. I still think you can only beat what's in front of you. And we have seen Italy in the past fail to get maximum points, and we've seen them struggle against horrible opposition in terms of qualifying. But here we are, Bruno, pretty much automatically qualified for the Euro. How impressed have you been with Mancini getting this group of boys together and, developing a much better winning mentality?
What I'm most impressed about with this qualification was not the flawless record per se, because like you said, it's the teams that are put in front of you, but it is Mancini as a manager. He has done wonders with this team, but if you look at how many games was it? It was our 6 games in qualification. There was not one game where the same squad was used more than once. He has rotated his players amazingly. Up front, he's had Immobile and Belotti on rotation, the midfield the same. And Italy, as a national team, has not had the squad depth and the talent that they have as they do now. And, Candreva got a call up. D'Ambrosio is playing for the team. Barella, Sensi. I've never seen so many Inter players in an Italian team, let alone young players. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it all. And I just can't. You gotta. The question begs to be asked. I don't know if we'll win the next Euros. It's next year, next July, but I would put us pretty high up in regards to the next World Cup, just because of the raw talent that's on that pitch. You got to think the Ronaldo. Will he be around in 3 years' time? Messi. A lot of the big names we've got now in the last World Cup, will they be around in 3 years' time to contest the next World Cup? I don't know. But the Italy team at the moment, I do know that there were some disciplinary issues with Moise Kean and Nicolo Zaniolo. And it's good to see Mancini stamp that out. But I'm very optimistic for the future of Italian football as a national team. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm very, very confident as well. I was very happy to see us put away those teams after the disgrace of 2018. It was literally the only option in terms of coming back. Just piggybacking off that, I think Sandro Tonali is an absolute phenomenon for his age. He is pretty much the heart and soul of that Brescia team. And I think with Barella and Sensi already as our 2 Italian midfielders, and them both forming a formidable, great partnership in the Italian national team, with Tonali about to step up right by their side, I think Conte and Marotta need to use that bargaining chip in order to land Sandro Tonali, the hottest prospect in Italian football. I don't know who he's going to choose. It could be us. It could be Juventus. It could have been AC Milan or Napoli prior to this season, but I really don't see him committing his future to a club in limbo like Napoli or AC Milan. So let's all hope that we are all in for Sandro Tonali. That's all we're going to have time for today. Once again, apologies for not getting this out for a while, but we're well over the hour mark now to make up for it. Bruno, as always, an absolute pleasure, man, and I'll check in with you in just over a day, and we'll bring the fans our Dortmund review. Thanks again, brother.
No worries. Forza Inter worldwide, and thank you for having me, Anthony.
Anytime, brother. Forza Inter worldwide. Ciao, ragazzi.